My name is Jonathan. I'm leading the threat research team in JFrog Security. We're specializing in vulnerabilities analysis, threat detection, and automation for threat analysis and detection. In this presentation, we will take a deeper look in specific two incidents that I already mentioned, and we will understand better why these issues became such a major cybersecurity threats. And by the way, until now, there are some companies that still deal with these specific threats. So before we start, and as I said, this is a conversation. What do you know about Log4j and the Solarwinds attacks? Why this incident became so famous? And please feel free to give your insight. What do you know about them? I mean, why they are so different from many cybersecurity attacks that happened in the last couple of years? It was a very complex attack comparing to other known attacks in the last couple of years. We believe, like the security industry believes, that there is some kind of a nation-wide effort that stand behind this attack. We can think about several countries in the world that can carry out such an attack, like Russia, for example, or China. Most of the speculations talking about Russia involvement because some of the clients of SolarWinds were U.S. government locations. So this is a good point. It was very complex. The attack, the initial attack, and anything related to the backdoor that was used, the malicious code, the obfuscation, like hiding the code that enabled the attackers to perform whatever they wanted. It was very complex and very advanced, and we can think about a black hat hacker sitting in his bedroom and carry out something like that. That was really huge. We have Log4j, we have Solarwinds. Let's take a look on some coverage from the news about the Solarwinds attack. So you can see that the attack was discovered a long time ago, but still this is being covered even today. You can see that there is an article here on May 2023, and you see that companies still trying to figure out whether they were impacted by this attack or not, if there were clients of SolarWinds. You can see that it made the hysteria in the time that it was published was very high about how to patch. And even when I patch my software, what is the risk of my network that may be already being compromised by an attacker that is sitting right now in my network? So even today, companies still talk about it because some of them still don't know whether the attackers still they have some kind of usage in their hacked servers or are they in my local network in some way. So that was very huge in the news. And also Log4j, which the vulnerability was called Log4 shell because it gave remote shell for the attackers to control the victim machine. So the name was Log4 shell instead of Log4j. So what was special about Log4j? Can you maybe try to suggest something why this was such a huge attack, specifically this vulnerability? Because we know that there are some published vulnerabilities every day. Dozens of vulnerabilities are being published for open source projects, for closed source projects, for, I don't know, even physical devices like your phone or your car or your dishwashers, right? So what was special about Log4j? Yeah, it was so widely used and the exploitation was so easy. And the reason for that is that the prerequisites for exploiting this vulnerability, if an attacker would like to find a target and try to exploit it, was nearly non-exist. So basically every application that used Log4j and logged user input, like they try to save the whatever user input is being sent from clients to the server. So that was the general use case. So in this case, only when this prerequisite is met, this is enough for exploiting this vulnerability. Comparing this prerequisite that nearly doesn't exist to other vulnerabilities that we see in the last couple of years, this is very, very easy, because most of the vulnerabilities, they have very complex prerequisites for exploitation. Like if there is some kind of a module that should be loaded, or if the user should create some interaction with the application in a specific way that only in this case it will be exploitable. No, in Log4j, that was everything. You use Log4j, you are 99% exploitable. And the hysteria was very high on that. And you can see that the US government demands that the deadline for fixing Log4Shell vulnerability would be Christmas Eve. And it was spread in the weekend in late 2021. So that was very hard to mitigate and to find all the different places that in your code. And think about, you know, big companies that they have 100,000 of lines of code that should be checked to understand whether there is a usage of Log4j in somewhere. So that was very very hard for companies to carry out. So that was just some coverage from the news. Let's deeply talk about Solarwinds. So Solarwinds is a US-based company providing IT infrastructure management. In late 2020, a major cyber attack attributed to Russian hackers, we are not sure, but this is the speculation, was uncovered. The hackers infiltrated Solarwinds Orion software update mechanism, injecting malicious code into legitimate updates. So they essentially hacked the update mechanism, the update servers of the Orion software by Solarwinds, and injected malicious code into the product, and then this malicious code was delivered with software updates to the clients. Up to 80,000 Solarwinds customers downloaded the infected updates, leading to a massive security breach. Victims of the breach included major US government departments and Fortune 500 companies, as we mentioned. It was one of the largest and most sophisticated cyber espionage attacks to date, highlighting significant weaknesses in cyber defense generally. That was something that we didn't see for many years. If we're going back to the 90s, when each vulnerability was remotely exploitable with no prerequisite, with no any condition that should be met. This is something that didn't happen for many years, but in 2020 that was the case. So Solarwinds attack was an example of a supply chain attack when adversaries target less secure elements in the software supply chain to reach their intended victims. So they essentially hacked Solarwinds, but the end target was the Solarwinds clients, right? The customers that used the Solarwinds software. And software supply chain security, in this case, involved protecting software from threats introduced during development and distribution process. So in this case, the distribution process of Solarwinds was attacked. In the Solarwinds attack, the compromised update mechanism led to distribution of malicious code, as we mentioned, and the attack highlighted the potential of even trusted software updates to be used as vectors for cybersecurity threats. And think about the third-party commercial software that we use in JFrog, right? We use Slack for communication. We use Zscaler for VPN, and probably even more third-party software. And we trust the updates that being delivered from these suppliers to be safe and to be okay to use. But this is not the case. When we talk about software supply chain security, we're essentially saying that we can't trust anything that is coming from the software supply chain that I use. The Solarwinds attack is a stark reminder of a danger posed by weaknesses in software supply chain security. It underscores the need of organization to improve their security posture and for more stringent standards and practices to protect software supply chain. This includes better security of software updates, like in the case of Solarwinds, more robust security in the software development process, because malicious code can be injected during the development process and not only in the update mechanism like happened in Solarwinds, and the implementation of multi-layered defense strategies. A quick question before we continue. Can you think maybe what it takes for attackers to carry out an attack like this? Like if I have a group of hackers, and I want to hack JFrog, for example, not suggesting anything, but just for the example. So what it takes for attackers to carry out an attack like this? What is the process that I should do when I want to attack a target, but I want to do it with the software supply chain approach. I want to attack a software that is being consumed by my target. So I want to detect what my target is using. So if I want to attack JFrog, which platform can I pick? Think about the software that we have. I want to pick essentially something that my target is using. Okay, so I choose a software that is being used in my target. So what would be the next step? Yeah, so you essentially want to find some kind of a vulnerability, whether it's a leaked secret, like if it's a password for the update server, for example, or you can use a public vulnerability that you can exploit. If it's a CVE, for example, that was being published, then I can maybe try to exploit a known vulnerability. And I can also, and it would take a lot of effort to carry out something like that, I can try to find a zero-day vulnerability in my target that I want to exploit. So I want to essentially exploit a vulnerability. That's correct. And the next thing that I want is to try to replicate the environment in my laboratory before I carry out the real attack, because I want to check whether I can perform something like that. It's essentially the proof of concept stage, and then I perform the attack, break into the system. I would have to try not make noise, because I want to make sure that there won't be any antiviruses or any security software that would detect my exploitation of the target. And then in the case of Solarwinds, what happened is that the attacker injected malicious code to one of the products that Solarwinds are publishing, which was Orion in this case, and he added a malicious code into the product itself. So if there is a new version of the product and the attackers created a new version, then this malicious code would be delivered to my target. So that would be the steps. So how did bad actors injected the malicious code? So as we said, initial access, the attackers first gain access to Solarwinds networks, but we're not sure right now how they did that. This is not publicly known, but it could involve techniques like phishing, exploiting software vulnerabilities, or even insider threats. So if I have someone in my target network, maybe I can ask him, hey, can you install a backdoor for me? So I would be able to access the network. That would be something that is not that is reasonable when we talk about nation-wide effort. Code injection, as we said, we're injecting the code into the target software. There is a build process because I injected a source code, but the build process should be carried out. And the software update, the compromised build, is then distributed as a legitimate update. And what happened in Orion, that was exactly the case. Customer who installed the infected update unknowingly allowed the malicious code in their system. And then there is the backdoor access. The malicious code essentially gives the attacker an access to the real target, like if it was JFrog in our example. The malicious code creates a backdoor which allows attackers to remotely control the affected system. and evade detection, carry out further malicious activities. In the case of Solarwinds, the attack was particularly devastating because it exploited the trust relationship between software vendors and customers, as we said. It also highlights the potential risk in software development and distribution process and the need of stringent security measures at every step of software supply chain, in the development step, in the build process, in the update releases. This is something that many companies that develop code should take into consideration. So Log4j is a widely used Java-based logging utility developed by the Apache Software Foundation. As we said in late 2021, a critical vulnerability known as Log4Shell, by the way, this is the CVE number, 2021-44228, was discovered in the Log4j software. This vulnerability allowed attackers to remotely execute arbitrary code or whatever other payload that they would like to execute on their targets, potentially taking over system. Because Log4j is used in numerous web servers, enterprise system, cloud services, and many other applications, this vulnerability had the potential to affect a vast number of systems worldwide. As we said, companies that heavily rely on Java for the software and services such as IBM, Google, Amazon, and many other might use Log4j. That was very commonly used still today. Rapid patching was required, but the widespread use of Log4j meant that this was a substantial effort. Think about what a company should perform to understand whether they are impacted or not. The vulnerability existed in a utility used by countless other software applications, forming part of their software supply chain because they are using third-party software, in this case an open source software, and they're consuming the code from it. So essentially this is part of the software supply chain. The fact that a single vulnerability could potentially affect so many different systems underscores the extent to which modern software is interpreted and the potential scale of supply chain security issues. Remediation of this type of issues can be complex and time-consuming due to the wide distribution and the embedded nature of the affected components. The discovery of Log4j vulnerability highlights the need for proactive security measures, such as regular security scanning, like we suggest with X-ray, for example, and auditing of software components, as well as a swift response mechanism to address vulnerabilities when they are discovered. That would be the process that should be carried out when we want to protect and find vulnerabilities as soon as they are being published. As we said in Log4j, that was very hard. It was widely used, and even if you find a software in your company that is using Log4j, you still have to find the exact line of code that is using it in the exploitable way. Even though in most cases that was 99% exploitable, but that would just simply emphasize the effort that should be taken for a company to deal with that. So what we suggest generally is to perform this kind of scanning automatically, and that's why we developed X-ray and also the JFrog Advanced Security for finding this kind of issues as soon as they are being published and in scale. If I have a lot of products, if I have a lot of software artifacts, then I want to find them quickly with minimum manual work needed from the application security team or any other security researcher that I have in-house. And Log4j, as we said, stresses the importance of robust security practices in software development, including the use of secure coding practices, regular auditing and the updating of dependencies, and quick, effective response mechanism for discovered vulnerabilities. Okay, so let's understand specifically how did bad actors discovered and use Log4Shell vulnerability. And this is actually hard to say because until today it is not clear. The Log4j vulnerability, also known as Log4Shell, was publicly disclosed, as we said, in the end of 2021 by the Apache Software Foundation after being discovered by a security researcher in Alibaba Cloud Security team. This vulnerability was found in the Log4j version 2, specifically in some versions in this range, but in a range that is very widely used. That's not a specific one version that was affected. The exploit works using the Java naming and directory interface. This is called JNDI. This is maybe too much technical information, but just for you to understand, there is some kind of mechanism that can be launched by default in Log4j at the time of the discovery that attackers can initiate in order to exploit the vulnerability remotely. So we're not talking about any prerequisite that the target should configure Log4j in a specific way. That was exploitable by default when we talk about the prerequisites of the configuration. And if exploited, the vulnerability could allow an attacker to remotely execute arbitrary code, carry out any kind of payload that they want, with the privilege of the user running the vulnerable software. So if there is a server that is very sensitive server that store, let's say, personal information, then if I exploit this vulnerability on this server, I would be able to get access to any data that this server store or have the access to read, for example. And this could potentially grant the attacker access to sensitive information, control over the system, and the ability to perform a wide range of malicious activities. So let's talk a little bit about the JFrog response for Log4j, just to give you an idea of what we did in the research team and in JFrog security when Log4j was published. So December 9th, Log4j exploit announced. That was the first time that there is an evidence of this vulnerability online. And just a day after that, X-ray database updated with the CVE and the extensive Log4j research. So we took for the security team nearly 1 day to perform the analysis and to understand the impact of this vulnerability. And it was published for our clients and to the development community generally. So we published a blog with the technical details, and also we updated the X-ray database with this information for every client of X-ray to have the ability to detect Log4j when they perform code scanning with X-ray. December 13, customers notified by email that no Log4j in JFrog platform, that we are not affected by this vulnerability, and X-ray is able to detect Log4j, plus deep dive blog on Log4j. And we also had a webinar day after that talking about Log4j and our research, its impact, and JFrog X-ray and how it is involved. The first Log4j and Log4Shell free open source scanning tools, we released them at December 15. That was still, you can access them in JFrog GitHub and download these tools to try and find if you are impacted by Log4Shell vulnerability, even if you are not a client of JFrog. And 3 days after that, we published a comprehensive Log4j remediation resources, and also a web page consolidating all our Log4j resources, including new cheat sheets. And this is the website that we launched with everything you need to know about the Log4j vulnerability. This is still online. You can access that with this URL here at the top. Sorry, at the bottom right corner of the screen. So why Solarwinds and Log4Shell was so pivotal? This incident have emphasized the urgency of implementing stronger cybersecurity measures and have led to push for stricter regulations globally and in the US. In the US specifically, the executive order on improving the nation's cybersecurity was issued in May 2021, highly focused on software supply chain security. I'm sure you already heard about that. If not, please try to find information about that online, because this is something that bothers a lot of our customers when we talk with them. The order lays out plans for improving the security of software supply chain and focuses on the SPO, on the software bill of material, in a way that this is the source of truth for understanding in which dependencies I have in my software, which software projects are coming from the software supply chain to my code. and this inherits security issues. The order mandates IT services providers to share certain breach information with the government, which could help in early detection and mitigation of incidents, similar to Solarwinds and Log4j. The order aims to bring the federal government to a zero trust architecture, which means that not implicitly trusting any entity within or outside the network. If applied effectively, this can potentially prevent attacks like Solarwinds, where the hackers exploited the trust placed in software updates, as we said. The orders seek to improve government's ability to detect malicious cyber activity on federal networks, which with the use of sophisticated technology and better collaboration. Future incidents like Log4j and Solarwinds could potentially be identified and addressed more rapidly. And the Solarwinds and Log4j incident have underscored the urgency of implementing the provision of this order and could lead to more rigorous enforcement and additional legislative efforts aimed at bolstering cybersecurity in both the public and private sectors. And this is just examples of relevant companies.